Hey everyone, I'm Coach Hannah, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about basically doing a story time for you guys, the last race that I did. All right, so the last race that I did in 2026 was called the Great Ferry Race Half Marathon. That was about a month ago in the second week of June. So that was my first time ever doing that race, and it was easily the hilliest half marathon I've ever done. My aunt, who runs half marathons as well, she recommended the race to me. It is in Washington, all around Bainbridge Island. It is a super cool race because you basically take the ferry there from Seattle, and you run off the ferry, run all around the island, and then the finish line is right near the ferry, so then you just get back on the ferry and go home after that. But yeah, so the race, it started a little bit later in the morning, like 8 a.m. Normally my races are like 7 a.m. or 7:30, but it was super cool. I ran off the ferry, started the race. As soon as the race started, the first mile of the race is basically straight uphill. Luckily the hill is not too steep, but it was definitely steep enough to where you feel it. So the first 3 miles of the race, 3 to 4 miles of the race, is like pretty uphill and a lot of kind of like up and down rolling hills. And then as soon as I hit mile 4 of the race, you go into the woods. So miles 4 to 7, 3 miles straight, you're basically doing trail running. And that was my first race ever running on the trails, and luckily most of it was flat, which was nice. But it was this is the first race I've ever done where right away it was like pretty spread out. Like there was still a lot of people in the race. There was like 700 people in the race. Normally my races are like 1,200, so this was a little bit less people, but there were not a bunch of people like right off the start line, like with pacers and stuff like that. So like pretty much most of my races I've done in the past, the first 5 miles, everyone's like, there's tons of people around you. You're like basically packed together like sardines for the first 5 miles of the race. But this was the first race I've ever ran where it was like pretty spread out from the beginning. So like the first 4 miles, I was running with these two guys who were maybe about 30 feet in front of me. I was just trying to stay within distance of them. I did happen to look at my watch at mile 2, so I was going a little bit too fast a pace, so I did slow down, but I made sure that they were always in sight of me because I have heard stories of people getting lost on this course, which I will talk to you guys more about later in the race. But yeah, miles 4 to 7 was all trail running, flat, which was super nice. It was actually really fun. I would definitely do another trail running race for sure. So yeah, that was miles 4 to 7. And then once we hit mile 8, there was an aid station. Right after the aid station, I turned the corner and you start going down a very steep downhill, which is nice. But the problem is that if you look ahead, right in front of you is after the huge steep downhill is a super steep uphill hill, like probably the steepest hill I've seen in my entire life. And it was a whole mile long. So mile 8 to 9 was straight uphill the entire time, which was super tough. There were multiple times that I wanted to stop and walk, but yeah, I kept pushing forward, and luckily the hills actually were not too bad in this race. Even though I knew my pace was slowing down a little bit on each hill, so I made sure to make up ground by going even faster on the flats and the downhills than I normally would. Yeah, and then one interesting thing about the race is throughout the race, especially in the trails, they have arrows and markers of okay, this is just to make sure that you're going the right way. But at about mile 10 of the race, 10 and a half, I'm running and there's a little part of a trail. We're about to go back to the main road, and I see an arrow to my left that's pointing backwards. And I'm like, oh, that's a little bit weird. But I just keep going. straight, and then I see another arrow that's also pointing backwards, and I actually stop and walk, which I've never done in a half marathon before. I turn around, wait for this guy who's behind me to catch up to me, and then I ask him, this is weird, why is the sign pointed the opposite direction, where are we supposed to go? And he's also confused, so he stops to walk as well. And then about 10 seconds later, these group of 3 guys who are running really fast catch up to us, and they're also confused as well, but they're like, no, I think we should just keep going straight. So we do that. I continue running the same direction I was going, and I try to pick up the pace a little bit to kind of make up for the time I lost when I was just standing in the middle of the woods. And luckily, good news is that we were going the right way. So at about mile 11 or 12, after I had started running again, there's this woman who is walking towards me on the trail, and she points to me and she does the number 2 peace sign. And I'm like, what? You mean, I was confused. I was like, you want me to go a second loop? Am I going the right way? I was confused. And then another guy does it a half mile later, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. But I knew I was going a pretty fast pace. And the last mile of the race was all downhill, which is nice. And I basically, the finish line is right in downtown Bainbridge Island. So I crossed the finish line, and I ended up with a time, I did not get a PR, but I ended up with a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes and 11 seconds, which I was extremely happy with the race, because as you guys know from my other videos, my half marathon PR is 1 hour, 36 minutes and 53 seconds. But since this course was so hilly, it was about 1,500 feet elevation gain, which over just a half marathon is no joke. So I expected to get maybe 10 minutes slower, an hour and 45. That's what a lot of people say. You're 10 to 15 minutes slower than your PR pace for this course because it's so hilly. So for me to only get 3.5 minutes slower than my PR was awesome. I was really happy with that, and just makes me curious to see what my new PR would be for a flat half marathon. But so yeah, I crossed the finish line at 1:40:11, and a woman hands me a plaque that says I got second woman overall, which I did not expect that at all. That was amazing. So in the race, I got the second woman overall out of 350 people, which was awesome. And then I won my age group as well, which was super cool. I was only 2 minutes slower than the woman who finished number 1 overall. So yeah, that was absolutely amazing. The first couple miles into the race, I was really annoyed with the hills, and I was like, I'm not doing this race ever again. This is too hilly. I just want to keep sticking to my flat half marathons or downhill half marathons that I've done in the past. But after finishing that race and getting second overall, and just the race making me realize, yeah, I'm even stronger than I think I am, and the hill training that I've been doing has paid off. So I actually will definitely be doing that race again, probably next year. We'll see. So yeah, that is the story of the most recent race that I did. The next race I have is August 30th. That is the Iron Horse Half Marathon. As you guys can see from my channel, that'll be the 4th year in a row that I'm doing my race, and that race will always hold a special place in my heart because that is the first half marathon that I have ever done, and first competitive race that I've ever done. So that's what I have next. I also have a 10K coming up, a 5K coming up in September, but I'll talk to you guys more about that in another video. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely leave it in the comments down below or on my social media. Let me know if you guys have done this race before, how you liked it, and what other really hilly races are out there, because I definitely like to try to tackle those. So I'm Coach Hannah, a fitness trainer with a degree in kinesiology. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and as always, chase those fitness goals and those PRs.